15th. I dreamt about my ex's family. But not just their family. Some of my dad's family too. I didn't watch TV last night, so I didn't watch TV. I stayed up late to do my notes, and then I went straight to bed because I was exhausted. But I didn't watch any TV. But I couldn't. The feeling. There really wasn't a strong emotional feeling about anything that was going on. It was just very as a matter of fact, like very this is what's unfolding type of feeling. So I don't know. Yeah. But what I do remember I think what stands out the most is his side of the family I'm seeing a lot of his family. Like, I mean, imagine like a house full of his family. His family is there, and I mean, he had a large family, a very large extended family. I see his cousins who are like siblings, like, because we're all around the same age. I see one cousin. I see a few. The feeling that I got was that this is a silent treatment. Like they had a hard time interacting with me. I could feel it, and I know why. It's because I'm triggering them. I trigger them, and I think I'm getting it more from his cousins in the family. I see one cousin in particular. We're the same age. We went to the same school too growing up. I've known my ex and his family for a long time. I mean, I've met his cousins and my sister-in-law before she was my sister-in-law in elementary school. Like, in elementary school. And then we reconnected again for my sister-in-law's. At that time, she wasn't my sister, like, she was just a friend. Her quinceañera. So I was 15? I was 14. No, 15. I was already 15. So it was freshman year in high school. I had already moved. And that's where I met him for the first time. It was her quinceañera. I met him and his family for the first time. And so I grew up with them. I mean, we didn't start dating then, but that's where I first met him. I was 15. And he doesn't remember this, but I remember it. He told me. His aunt, I mean, I love his family so much. His aunt put it in his head, really. Put it in his head oh, she seems like a really nice girl. Why don't you date her? I remember him telling me that. So it wasn't something that came naturally from him to date me. He was in his own world. and and I remember him telling me that, and I remember it stuck because I was like, oh, so it wasn't something that you wanted, but more so that the idea got implanted in your head. And I remember how he told me too that his aunt was the one that told him, hey, you know, Yubi seems like a really nice girl. Why don't you date her? And that he was like, maybe I should. You do that a lot. And I remember him telling me that, and I remember that feeling of like, oh, so someone had to put the idea in your head, right, to date me. But again, I didn't, you know, you're kids, you're just, so it wasn't so much this like, it didn't bother me, I guess. It didn't bother me because I think there was also that awareness, right? In terms of, gosh, my hair's a mess. There was also that awareness that, you know, I had settled too, right? We both had settled. We both had settled. So we were really close with his cousins. I mean, really close. I mean, when we decided to tell our families, we only really told our immediate families. Everybody else was more through like text, but we told our immediate families via phone. It was COVID. Everyone struggled. I don't think there isn't anyone who didn't struggle with the idea, and I think a big part of it is because of how they perceived us. They perceived us to be that couple, right? You know, there was an element of like, I knew it too. They had us on a pedestal in the sense of like, they're a great couple, we love them very much. Like everywhere we went, like even when we would go to Mexico, they would speak very highly. There was family from Mexico there too. And I could feel it. Like, I could feel their coldness. Like it was hard for them. It was really hard for them. And I think that's why. I think it's they you know, that's what happens when you put someone on a pedestal, right? They fall hard. And not so much like that there's admiration, but more of like, what I'm talking about, putting on, like, I don't think they thought I could do any wrong, right? And or speak so openly about it and feel so comfortable about it. I mean, but again, I'm viewing my world in a different way. I don't view it anymore. I'm viewing it less and less in a duality sense, right? That it's right or wrong, but just is, and there's just experiences. But in a traditional Hispanic Latino community, right, it's just different. It's just different. And there's these, you know, maybe not so much anymore here in the US because we become very acculturated, right? But in Mexico, it's different. It's not different, maybe, but because his family is from a small town, Tecolotlan. And I mean, I love his family there too. Like, I love them dearly. I still do. They're really struggling with it. And then, of course, so not only are we adding the separation piece, right, divorce, but then the little, you know, the little seasoning to it of, you know, my affair. it makes it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. And I'm not laughing, I just learned to laugh, right? It's just coping strategy. It's an ego defense mechanism. But it's hard for people. It's hard for people to get it. I get it. I see that. So in my dream, his family was really struggling with it. Really struggling with the idea. He was just coping. And people were checking up on him. How are you? How you doing? Because we were I had more masculine energy. Even in that relationship, I had more masculine energy. I did. I did. I had more masculine energy. I was the initiator. I was the planner. I was the doer. Again, non-traditional roles. I was the one who worked for most of our marriage. I mean, we both worked a good chunk of our marriage, but there was a big chunk of marriage where he stayed home, right? Because supposedly he was going to go to school and finish. But, and then he stayed home to help with the twins, and when we lived with my brother for 4 years. And so there was definitely this role reversal, pockets of where the role reversal was very clear. And when he was anxious, like, I'm like, don't worry, we got this. And like, I was the problem solver. I was the one who fixed it. I was the, like the planner. I mean, I hosted a lot of events for their family, especially the holiday events, or helped host. To get, everyone started having babies, then it was harder for the people who used to host it. So I stepped up because I didn't have kids, and their other cousin and I were the ones that would help with the hosting because her kids were already adults, and so it was easier for her to also plan. But anyways, so I dreamt of him and his family, and then I was in a house, and they're all there. And there's his one cousin that I went to school with as a young adult, and she had disclosed some information when we were younger, when we were in high school. We were a little drunk. So were we underage drinking? Yes. And I remember she disclosed some information. And to me, and the information that I'm sharing is triggering her about the affair. It's triggering old childhood stuff, right? So I'm triggering them. I'm triggering their challenging, right? Their belief system, their how they viewed me initially, because I could feel it. I could feel I mean, it happened recently too. So I still talk to his mom. She reaches out. I went to go see her, not this last time, but the last time before that. And but I did talk to her for the holidays, and she's lonely. She didn't have any girls, and only 3 boys, and I was the one that she was closest with. And so she's lonely. And she appreciated my company, and yeah. She was okay. I think she was okay in the dream. It was more everybody else, the extension of the family. And so when I went, there was one of his cousins there, and initially, like, I hadn't seen him in a long time. I mean, since high school, maybe, or maybe right after we got married. It's a long time. And initially, I don't know if it was towards me, but we hugged. And then, and after, I don't know if it was because of the realization or because of COVID that he was just like this. Like, oh, wait. Like, goodbye. I'm all okay. But I often think about that. I often think about his family. Because, you know, for so many years they were my family. I fell in love with his family. That's what I remember first. That was like one of the deciding factors for me, because I was very like thought oriented, very thought oriented about who I was going to marry, why I was going to marry them, and you know, because I had to do things in a certain way, right? And I knew marriage was going to come. As much as I pushed it away, and I had told him from the beginning, he wanted to get married like a year after, and I was just like, hell no. I remember telling him, I'm like, no, I need to finish my degree, because my mom always instilled it in me. You make sure you get your degree first. And I was afraid to get pregnant. I was afraid to hold on to that type of role and not feel prepared. And I waited 7 years to get to know him. And even through those 7 years, we broke up a lot for the same reasons, because we wanted different things. He wanted to be a young family, and I was like, I'm not ready. And I didn't want to get married. I didn't believe in marriage then, and I really didn't. I really didn't believe in marriage, and I didn't want to get stuck. I didn't want to get stuck. There was that feeling of like, I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get stuck. But then my parents broke up, separated. They separated, and officially, I mean, because that was a drama too. But they officially separated, and I remember that feeling of like insecurity of like, oh snap, like I need to figure out how to make it on my own. And the fear set in. This was already 7 years in, and he had already had asked me several times to get married. I said no, and we had broken up because we wanted. I already saw it. I was like, we want separate things, and I don't think I can give you what you want, because I don't see myself having children. But then we would always come back together. But then I do remember when that happened with my parents, it triggered in me this insecurity of like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it by myself. And so I took him up on his offer, thinking I've known him long. Like, I literally, it was a rational, like, I've known him for 7 years. I more or less know how he is. He's a good man. He's safe, right? And I knew even then, I don't trust him, but I trusted his family. That's what it was. I remember the first time I fell in love with his family. And it was the first, when we were dating, I was very big about like, no, don't invite me to see your family. Like, you know, like, oh, bringing the girlfriend over for the holidays. I never did that. I was like, I'm not married to you. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. You don't have to be with me for the holidays. Let's just do our own thing for the 7 years. And I'm like, because the fear of like, I don't want to get too committed, really. But I remember the first year that he did take me, that I did go. I don't know what changed my mind, but I went, and I fell in love with his family. And I think it was because my family was struggling. Like, there was chaos in my family, right? And the things we used to do for like, everything just shifted for us. And so to be in that environment with his extended family, and he had a lot of cousins around his same age. Like, it was fun. It was so much fun. And I liked that. And I fell in, that was, like, I could still replay that moment in my mind. And I fell in love with his family. I fell in love. And so when I was going down my list of, you know, trying to, you know, tell myself like that this is okay for me to marry him, that was one of the factors. Was I don't know if I trust him. I don't know if I can, but I trust his family. Like that was the weirdest. I remember thinking about that when I was going down my list. I'm like, I trust his family. If anything should happen with this, I trust his family, not him. I trust his family. Yeah. And I do. I love his family very much. And I am sorry. Have I hurt them? Oh, I've hurt them through this process. But I do love them very much. I do. But in my dream, it was just a house full of his family members, and he was just trying to survive, really. And I was there, and I could feel that they just saw me differently. They saw me differently. They saw me differently. The other family was my dad's side. One of the many extended families from my dad, because his dad had 3 wives. And so there's 3 pockets of children, aunts and uncles. And so I dreamt of one of those pockets of aunts and uncles. But anyways, sorry, so that was what my dream was. That's weird. Alright, I need to get ready. Hi, my name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and